Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the first webcast in our Microsoft Dynamics CRM education series brought to you by Tribridge and msdynamicsworld.com. Today's session, Harness the Power of Advanced Field Finds in Microsoft Dynamics CRM 2015, will be presented by Danielle Parks, Jackie Heineman, and Mike Hauk from Tribridge. The webcast should last about 45 minutes, and at the end you'll have an opportunity to ask questions and share your point of view. If you do have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. Today's session will also be recorded and we'll post it online within the next few days. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Danielle Parks.
Good afternoon to everyone. We're very excited to be hosting today's CRM session on harnessing the power of advanced finds in CRM 2015. Now, I know that we have done quite a few webinars with MS Dynamics World, but for those of you who aren't familiar with Tribridge, we are a national technology services firm with nearly 600 team members. Our customers, as well as our team, are spread throughout the United States, and there's no exception for today's webinar, as Mike, Jackie, and I are all in different cities. We are Microsoft's top partner and support the largest dynamic customer base in North America, and we've been honored to win Microsoft Dynamics Worldwide Partner of the Year 4 times. In the last 6 years was actually unprecedented. And this month at Worldwide Partner Conference, we were named the 2015 Microsoft Dynamics US Partner of the Year. Now, one thing I believe that makes Tribridge unique is our Big 5 quality. Our founders came from Big 5 consulting firms with a vision of bringing those types of services to the mid-market. These philosophies really show in how we do our projects, methodologies, and with our relationships with our customers. Now, I know you're here today to see and become an even bigger power user of Microsoft CRM, but I wanted to make you aware that Tribridge also offers a full menu of complementary services, and those include cloud computing, ERP, portals, collaboration, security, infrastructure, custom software development, as well as human capital management and business intelligence. So at this point, I am going to pass things off to our presenter, Jackie Heineman, who is an expert in Microsoft CRM and ready to show you how to get the most out of those advanced finds. She's got a lot to cover, so without further ado, Jackie.
Thanks for joining me today, everyone. As Danielle said, I'm here to discuss how to harness the power of advanced finds. As you can see, our agenda is on the screen. It's a pretty full list, and so in the interest of time, I'm not going to read this list to you. I'm going to discuss how personal views are different from system views, how you access system views, but because system views require you to have a higher security level, we're going to focus primarily on advanced finds and personal views today. You will be able to use this information if you're using advanced find to create system views. Also, while I will be demonstrating much of the functionality we're discussing today directly in CRM 2015, the PowerPoint presentation that you're looking at now includes all of the content I'll be covering when I'm demoing, so you can refer back to that as well after the presentation. So with that in mind, let's get started. One of the first things I wanted to cover is where exactly do you find advanced find? It depends on what version of CRM you're in. If you're in CRM 2015, which I'm going to be using today, it's right at the top of the navigation bar, the top right. So it's available to you on every screen. If you're in 2013, CRM 2013, advanced find is not on every page. If you're on an individual record, you must navigate to a grid view or a dashboard to open it. And then if you're in CRM 2011, advanced find is an option on the toolbar, as you can see here. So let's talk about personal views versus system views first and get that out of the way. So personal views, they are owned by users or teams, while system views are owned by the entire organization. Personal views are visible to the user who created it unless it's shared or assigned to another user. System views are visible to all users by default. And let's just note that the view is visible, but not necessarily the records. And what I mean by that is you could create a view of all records in California, but if the user doesn't have access to see records, those particular records, the view would be empty. Sharing views. Personal views can be shared with just a specific user or a team of users. System views cannot be controlled by sharing. That is also true with assigning. Personal views can be assigned to just specific users and teams. System views are not controlled by assigning. For exporting views, personal views would not be included if you export a solution. So if you're creating, if you're designing your CRM system in a test or dev environment, the personal views that you created there would not export with a solution when you move them into your production environment. System views, on the other hand, can be included in a solution. And then security rights. Basic roles, the normal out-of-the-box roles like salesperson and customer service representative can create and edit their own personal views. With system views, only the system administrator or system customizer security role have the ability to create, edit, and delete system views. So with some of those things in mind, let's recap a little bit and think about some other considerations for views. System reviews require a user with the proper security role. System views are visible to all, cannot limit which users within the organization see the views. The views that should not be permanently changed or deleted by the user should be created as system views. That would be the preferable way of deploying those. If a view is applicable for only a small set of users or different sets of users need to see the views of information, then you would consider using personal views and sharing the view among users and teams. If the view will need to be changed often, it might be best to make it a personal view. That would alleviate the need for a system admin to make a change each time your users request it. Personal views must be shared or assigned across to use across more than one users. Personal views cannot be converted to system views, but system views can be saved as personal views. And then creating system views is really a different process than creating personal views, even though they both use the same advanced find queries. I'm going to show you quickly about how to create system views because many of us on the line today may not have the ability to create system views because you don't have the rights. I'm just going to go over this briefly. If you have the rights, system views can be accessed from the views list right in CRM 2015, which is kind of new. You can see here on my slide the menu that I can bring up if I'm looking at a view in CRM 2015. You can launch the list of existing views, apply filters to a view in this window. You can even save those filters that you apply to the system view. Please note that if you do make changes in this manner in 2015, you still must publish the changes before they'll be visible to all users. And then if you don't have CRM 2015, you'd access the system views from the old-fashioned way, which would be under settings and customization. You could also access them this way in CRM 2015. So if you're using the other versions or if you want to just go directly to the solution, if you have the proper rights, you can select a particular entity such as account, expand it out, choose views, and then from here you can edit a view, create a new view, delete a view, activate and deactivate a system view. Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in and we're going to start using some advanced find to create a new personal view. So I want to get through just a little bit, one more piece of housekeeping before I move over to CRM. If you notice here, it says Open Advanced Find based on your version of CRM. Click on New and Details. This is our bit of housekeeping. If this section, if this selection is not highlighted with the blue box around it, Details is not selected or turned on. And if Details isn't turned on when you're creating your advanced finds, you cannot change the query operators. You cannot even really see all of the details within within an advanced find. So your advanced find without details selected would show more condensed or summarized like this. If details has been selected, then you would be able to see all of the operators and all of the information related to that advanced find. So always want to remember when you come into advanced find to make sure details is selected or turned on. Default by going to your options within CRM 2015. Across the top of the navigation bar, you can click on settings, options. On the general tab, you can change your advanced find to detailed. And then when you save that, it'll always be on when you go into an advanced find. So let's go ahead and go into CRM now. I'm going to share my screen and take us into CRM 2015. All right, so this is CRM 2015. I'm going to go ahead and open Advanced Find. And as you can see here, if I just bring up the Advanced Find, my default setting is looking for accounts. I'm going to go ahead and show you what happens if we do nothing more with this particular Advanced Find except hit Results. We hit Results, you'll see we get account name, primary contact, and main phone. I did nothing, added no columns, adjusted no filtering, nothing. This is just a default quick view I can get in Advanced Find. So I can sort these column headers by clicking on them. I've just sorted it by primary contact. I can resort again, hitting it a second time. I could sort it by the account name, resort it in the opposite direction. We're going to show you now how to go ahead and add some columns and edit some columns. Before I do that, I want to show you one more thing. One more temporary change I can make to a particular column header would be to adjust the width of a column header. These adjustments do not stick. They would default back. So through the course of the presentation, I will show you how to adjust column headers and make them stay with the size that you set. So we're going to go ahead and click back to the Advanced Find tab. We're going to hit Edit Column, and we're going to now add a column to this particular view. Wherever you want to add the column, you would simply click on the column next to where you want to add it. If I don't click on any column and I go ahead and say Add Column, the column that I add would just show up at the end. But I'm going to click on the Account Name column, then I'm going to say Add Column. I'm going to add the Address 1 City column. I could add multiple columns at this point, but I'm just going to add that one city column. I'm going to click OK, and you'll notice that it added it to the list of columns immediately to the right of where I had selected. I can adjust where the column appears by simply using these arrow keys. So whichever column I have highlighted is going to move when I move the arrow keys, when I click on the arrow keys. Let's go ahead and look at what our results are now with the Address 1 City. I'm going to go ahead and click Results. And I'm going to show you now that the Advanced Find is now showing us that same set of data, accounts, with the city column showing. Let's go back into our Advanced Find and look at a couple more things. If you want to change the properties, I had mentioned to you that you can change the setting on a column so that it narrower based on the amount of data or the column header. So if I choose Change Properties here on the city column, I could make it much wider or I could make it narrower. I have 8 preset choices here. I'm just going to show you that if I choose a lower setting, that might have been, that might accommodate whatever data is within the column, but you can see that it also would cut off the column header. So sometimes you want to adjust the width of the column just to accommodate the column header and not necessarily the data. So there are some other things that we can do now with this particular result set. We could go ahead and we could start filtering on this advanced find. So right now I'm just looking at all accounts within this particular demo database. There's 11 records in here. I'm going to go ahead and show you how we can filter this down. So right now my details is set, is turned on, which is a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and hit select. Sometimes one of the very first options you're going to want to select on any advanced find you're creating is you want to make sure that the records you're selecting are active records, because you can deactivate accounts and opportunities and other records within the system. One of the best practices would always be to say, I want to see accounts where the status equals, and then you click in the value box, choose the value active, move it over to the right. So now I'm saying I want all of my accounts where my status equals active. Let's go ahead and add a filter on the state field. I could say I only want to see my records that are in the state of California. So I could use the equals, I could use contains, I could use begins with. So all of those would work if I wanted to find a particular value within the state, but probably the most efficient would be equals, and then I would put in CA for California, because that's holding the abbreviation for the state within that field. Then I can also choose I'm going to show you how some of the other fields work. If I were to pick a date field, I'll choose created on. If you look at the options in the operator under created on, you'll see that I have a significant list here. This gives you a lot of different ways to pick data based on a date. You can pick records that were created on a specific date. You can pick records that were created in the last 7 days. You can pick records that were created in the last X number of years. I can pick records that were created in the last few minutes even. We've got hours, days, weeks, months, older than X number of minutes, older than X number of hours. So these are, and if you're not in CRM 2015, you may not have all of these options. Some of the minute options, I believe, are brand new. I'm just going to go ahead and select records that were created in the last 3 months. Let's go ahead and look at another type of field, a numeric field. So if we go down the list here and we find credit limit, which would be a numeric field, you can see that we have some options that would be appropriate for a numeric field. Equals, does not equal, is greater than or equal to, less than, so on and so forth. And then also, we already picked a field for, that was just a text field, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the owner field here. And I'm going to show you because that one's kind of a unique choice too. If I choose the owner field, which is essentially the user that created the record by default, it can be changed after an account is created, but by default, the owner would be whoever created the record. You can see that my choices are owner equals the current user, which would right now be me because I'm logged into the system. Does not equal the current user, so I want to see all the records I did not create. I want to look at all the records that are owned by people on my team, or are my records or people on my team. That's the distinction should be made there, that if I choose equal current users teams, it was owned by a user or a team. If I were to pick records where the owner equals current users teams, they would only show me records that were owned by teams and not records that were owned by individual users on those teams. This, on the other hand, would show me records that I own or records that are owned by my teams. Okay? I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as default to equals current user. And let's go ahead and look at our results with this advanced find set. It just reduced my list from 11 records down to 1. So I apparently have 1 record in the state of California that was created in the last 90 days. The other thing that you can do when you're in CRM is rather than creating a new view from scratch, you can leverage an existing view. There are a lot of views already within the system. And if you're not sure how to create a view from scratch or you're not sure of what criteria to use, you could start with a view that's already been built. So within each entity within the system, there are already field views that have been built. These are all advanced find queries that have been turned into views. So if we start with this particular view, my active accounts, I'm going to discard the changes that I started here. You'll see that now I'm looking at the query for accounts, my active accounts. The owner equals current user, the status equals active. I can build on this query. I can add things to it. I can edit the columns just like I did on the view that we started from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and add the state column to this view. Now, because I didn't decide where I wanted that column to go ahead of time, it showed up right at the end. I'm going to go ahead and move it and put it next to the city column. And now, because this was a system view, I have to save it as a new view, save it as a new personal view. I cannot change a system view from here. Unless I shouldn't say that. If I had the proper rights, I technically could change a personal view. I could add filters. I'm going to do that. I'm going to save this as a new personal view. I click OK. And I'm going to choose Save As. And I'm going to say My Active Accounts by state. That's the name that I'm giving this view. I'm going to hit Save. I'm going to go ahead and look at my saved views now. I'm going to show you that here is the view that I just created, the query, the advanced find I just saved, My Active Accounts by state, just created at this particular time. You can go ahead and open this, show you the results. This is now a view that that would be accessible to me anytime I go to the accounts view, the account view list when I'm in CRM. So I can do all the same things that I did on this particular view before. I can sort. I can sort by any of these columns just by clicking on them. So now the thing that I want to show you is how to use some dynamic filtering on this view. So you can imagine that that I may want to filter this view down further than just showing all my accounts within every state. Maybe I just want to see records within a particular state. I can do that. I have to move out of advanced find and I have to go to the view. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go and I'm going to look at sales. Sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. I'm going to click on sales, accounts. Now here I am within just my views. I'm going to go find that view that I just created, my active accounts by state. Notice because it's a personal view, it shows up within the section that says My Views. Here's the view I just created. I'm going to turn on filtering on this particular view. Just by clicking on that icon to the far right of the view, I now have turned on what's called dynamic filtering on this particular list of records. So if I click on a particular column, I can filter one column right now within this view. I'm going to choose custom filter. I could sort, I could choose records that contain data, contain no data, but I'm going to pick custom filter. And I'm going to change this operator to my state equals California. I'm going to click OK, and you can see I only have one record now showing in this particular view. Okay. Now you may have noticed that I could have added another value there. So I could do equals California and state equals. So you might already be telling me that's not going to work, but I picked that purposely to make a point that if I do pick this, if I do set this way, I'm not actually going to get any records. And that's because there aren't technically any records within this database that the state contains both the values California and Washington within one particular field. So this has to be an OR. The custom filter on one column would have to be an OR. I'm going to click OK. Now you can see I've got 4 records, 1 in California, 3 in Washington. There is a way that you can use the OR, but you would need to do that back in Advanced Find. And we'll do that in just a minute or two. You can filter on more than one column, though, within the filter, the dynamic filter within a view. So while I couldn't do the OR statement or the AND statement here on one column, I can add another column and use an AND. So what I will do is I'll go ahead and add a custom filter, and I'll say that I want my account name to equal, or I'm not going to use equal, I'm going to use begins with. My account name is going to begin with A. So I just want to limit, maybe I have thousands and thousands of records and I just want to work with the ones that are at the beginning of the list today. So I could click A, and now you can see that I had an AND statement. So out of the records that were in California and Washington, only one of them has an account name beginning with the letter A. These filters cannot be saved from here to this personal view. You would have to turn them on each and every time that you came in here. But you can also see that if it would probably be a lot faster, a lot more efficient to have a view like this than to have to create a view for 50 different states within the United States. The number of views would get pretty unruly pretty fast. So now I'm going to show you how we can go back to the Advanced Find and add some more complexity to the Advanced Find and save those. So we're going to go back into Advanced Find, telling me that I have unsaved filters, which I understand, and then I go back to Advanced Find. All right, so I'm going to show you a filter that I already started, just in the interest of time. I think this is it. Maybe this is it. There we go. So in the interest of time, now notice that my details is turned off. So I'm only seeing a quick summary of this particular Advanced Find. I don't see all the detail. I can't change the operators. So all I'm going to do is click on details. Now I can see everything. I can see all the operators. I can see the entire query. So let's look at this. What do I actually have set up here? I'm looking at accounts where the status equals active, where the owner equals the current user, where the state equals California, or the state equals Washington. Notice that I have this or grouping at the beginning of the lines here. So I'm going to delete this or grouping and then show you how to add it again. I actually deleted one of my states, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and just show you how we can put this back in. So I've got address state equals Washington, address 1 state equals Washington. We're going to pick state again. Address 1 state equals California. Now I'm going to group these two together by selecting the row. Click on that drop down, select the row. Click on the drop down of the line below it, select the row, then come up here on my toolbar and click the group or. When I do that, then you'll notice that my or clause shows at the beginning of the line. Okay. Here that, well, let me show you something here. Let me do something real quick before we go any further. I'm going to take these values out. I want to show you what that means. So let's go ahead and look at our results real quick here. So there we go. So the same value that I got on the personal view by dynamically filtering, I now have set within this personal view, and I can save this value. I can come back here and I can do save as. I'm going to rename this my accounts, my active accounts in CA or WA. Okay. So now if I go look at my saved views, there's my view that I just saved, my active accounts in California or Washington. If I go back into accounts and look at my personal views, this will be one of the options available on my list. So a moment ago, we were looking at a query that looked at more than one of the CRM entities. It looked at both the CRM entity accounts, and it looked at CRM entity opportunities, and it tied those two entities together. So the opportunities are related to an account with a parent-child relationship. And the query that I was showing, while it technically will give me records, and I'll show you that, showing me that I have 2 records that meet this criteria. This is really not the best method of displaying this data. And the reason for that is because if I were to go back into the advanced find, you might say, you know, that's a great list, you know, my accounts that have opportunities, but what I need to know more about the opportunity. I need to know what the opportunity is called. I need to know when the close date of the opportunity is. Well, from this particular view, the way I wrote this query, you'll notice when you go into edit columns that I don't have the ability to add any opportunity values. These are all just account columns that I could add to this list. So that doesn't help me. I need to be able to see some of the opportunity data. So we actually have to approach writing this query a different way. We're going to write this query by starting from the opportunity entity. I'm going to change my look for. I'm going to go to opportunities. I'm going to write almost the exact same query, but I'm going to start it from opportunities. I'm going to start a new query. I'm going to select opportunities that are 1 opportunities. So I'm going to find my status. I want only one opportunities. I want belong to me as the owner. Equals current user. And then I'm going to go ahead and add information about the account. And I do that by selecting the account as what's called a related entity, a related record. So partway down the list, you'll see these are fields that are all related to opportunity, but as you get past all of the opportunity fields, you have the option to pick records that are related. I'm going to pick the related account record, adds this additional section to my query, and now I'm going to go ahead and add the information to the query about the account. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I want the records where the state equals either California or the state equals Washington. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in records that were created within, let's see, in the last 8 weeks. Now I'm going to go ahead, actually I forgot one thing, and that is to go ahead and group these values. I'm going to go ahead and select this row, add my group, and then I'm going to go ahead and show our results. So now I'm looking at opportunities on accounts that were created in the last 8 weeks. So now you're looking at that and you're going, well, that still doesn't give me all the information I need. But the difference with this view is if I go back to Advanced Find now and I go to edit my columns, I can select information from the account entity. These are opportunity columns, opportunity fields. And when I go to add columns, I can say I want to see some of the account columns on this particular view. So I want to see the account state, I want to see the created on, I'm going to go ahead and click those. I just added them to the end. I'm going to expand these columns out, the size of the columns, because I want to show you something specific. Not big enough. Notice that these columns tell me that they are from the account entity because they have the parentheses at the end of the column header that says they are from the account. I go ahead and click OK, and then I show my results. You'll see that any column that comes from a different entity than the one I'm sitting on shows me that the name of the entity it's coming from. And then I can choose to save that. If I look under Saved Views, there is my saved view. If I were to go look at Opportunities, Views, there's my view that is accessible from the list of views under My Views. Now, there are a lot of other things that you can do with these views, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change back to our PowerPoint. In the interest of time, we're going to go through some of the slides. Some of the things that you can do with the queries that you've saved, if you're on an advanced find and you look at those saved views, you can set a particular view as the default view for that entity. So I could set that particular view that I just created for opportunities as my default view. I can activate or deactivate a view. Maybe I don't want to necessarily delete a view, but I just want to kind of get it out of my way for a while because I'm not going to use it. I can deactivate it. And then when I'm ready to use it again, I could reactivate it. I can delete that personal view if I'm the owner of the view. And then I can also assign the personal view to other users and teams. Or I could share the personal view with other users and teams. So if I'm a sales manager, I could create some views that are usable by my entire team or specific users on my teams, and I could assign them out. I could build those views and I could assign them out to other people. I could share them out to other people. And I can also email a link to a particular view. So let's say you created a really cool view. It has a lot of good data on it. You want to have someone else look at it. I could go ahead and I could email a view to someone else. I can also export a saved view. I'm going to explore a few of these options a little further. So this is what it would look like if I were to email a view to another user. So again, maybe I created a really cool view that has a lot of good data on it. I just want to get this to my sales manager, our CEO, one of the people on my team. As long as they have access to the records that are within the view, you could email this view to them. They would click on the view and it would open that particular view for them in CRM. Again, they have to have access to CRM. They have to have access to the records that would be within that view. Assigning the saved view. So we talked about this briefly. So I can assign a saved view. I can assign it to myself. So if your view has been shared with you, if you have the rights to completely modify it, you can actually make yourself the owner of that view. And when you're the owner of the view, then you have complete control over it. I can assign this view to another user or team. You can assign it to the user or team and just give them certain rights, or you can actually give complete ownership and control of the view to another user or a member of teams. When I share the saved view, you can see that I have some options here. I can say I can give the users that I'm sharing it with read access, which will allow them to use the view, write access, which will allow them to edit the view. If they edit it and they don't save it as a new view, it's going to change that view for everyone. They can delete it. And again, it's going to delete it for everyone. You can give them the ability to assign it out again, so to somebody else that you didn't originally assign it to. And then you can also give them the ability to share it. Okay? If you give them the ability to share it, they can also choose not to see it on their list. They can unshare it from themselves. So if it's not a view that they decide that they want, they can unshare it from themselves, and it would remove it just from their view, and they wouldn't have to see it. Exporting to Excel. There are 3 different options when you go to export a view of records. You can export a static worksheet, which sends just the records from the current display. You can display up to 250 records on a view to Excel. Again, displaying the 250 records, if you notice when we were back changing the user option setting from simple to detailed, there was actually a setting right above it that said show number of records on a view or something like that. By default, it only shows you 50 rows. You can change it to 250. So if you're only showing 50, then when you send these records to Excel, to a static worksheet, it's only going to send 50 rows. The data that you send to Excel in all of these cases can be edited in Excel and re-imported. The dynamic worksheet allows you to select which columns you want to send prior to exporting. So this, if I were to export this static worksheet right here, I'm only going to get these 5 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I choose dynamic worksheet, then it would let me pick additional columns that maybe aren't shown in this view. And if I have CRM for Outlook installed, every time I open that spreadsheet, I would have the ability to refresh it from CRM, so it would be a very current list. and then the dynamic pivot table, which allows you to select pivot table columns prior to exporting the view. And for those of you who are really good with Excel and pivot tables, you can do some pretty complex things with those pivot tables once that data is in Excel. You can also update the data and re-import it into CRM. And in order to refresh the data in that pivot table, you would have to have CRM for Outlook installed. This is what the spreadsheet looks like when you chose dynamic worksheet or pivot table. Or we'll show you that certain columns are not editable. You'll also notice that there are certain columns, if you notice it says D, E, F, G. There are certain columns that are hidden. Those are columns that hold the primary key and that you cannot change if you want to be able to export that data back into CRM. So that's why they're hidden. And then we have some really creative ways to use Advanced Find. I'm going to go through this briefly. We're not going to have a lot of time to delve into this in great length because it can get really complex, but we do have a few more minutes left, but I do want to leave a little time for questions. So I'm going to just go through this really fast. Sometimes certain types of queries are not possible with CRM. Using just the basic Advanced Find. For example, you can't create a query to show you accounts with no contacts or opportunities with no contacts because that requires an outer join on the tables, and that's not an option within Advanced Find. There are two possible ways that come to mind that you could accomplish that. And the methods I'm going to show you, you could actually use to do a lot of other things, but I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on how to use these two options. One, to get accounts with no contacts. And that would be using a marketing list to build the Advanced Find to get accounts with no contacts. The other one I'm going to try to touch base on is exporting the actual fetch XML query out of CRM, editing it, and bringing it back in. I'm not sure how far into that we're going to get. But again, you could refer back to this presentation. So to use the marketing list with Advanced Find to get accounts with no contact, you would build a marketing list first that gave you all your active, and I'm sorry, this is actually a typo. It should say all your active accounts. And so once that marketing list is built, marketing list, all active accounts within CRM, you would click on Manage Members, and you would choose the option to remove records using the Advanced Find. So we have a marketing list with all of our accounts, our active accounts. Then we add this Advanced Find to remove members. This Advanced Find basically says we want all of our accounts where the status is equal to active. We want all of our contacts, our related contacts to those accounts where the created on contains data. So essentially, if a record, a contact has been created, it's going to have a value in the created on. That would then give me a list of all of the accounts that have at least one contact. Remove those records. Choose the option to remove those members from your marketing list. And what I'm left with is a list of accounts that do not have at least one contact. So a really quick and simple way to get that accounts with no contacts. You could do a lot of different things with that too, though, with the marketing list. Now, as far as the Advanced Find, exporting the Advanced Find, this is a lot more complex. We can't really go into all the detail here, but I'm going to give you some pointers to get you started. The Advanced Find queries are built on Fetch XML, which is a Microsoft proprietary query language. And to export it, there is an option right on the toolbar when you're on an Advanced Find to export it. So that's not an issue. The issue is, how do I work with it? How do I get it back into CRM? Well, there are some tools out there. These aren't the only ones, but these are the ones that I use that will let you modify the Fetch XML and bring it back in. So the first tool that I'm pointing you to is this tool called XRM Toolbox. This toolbox actually has a number of different things in it that you could use, really cool tools to help you manage your CRM system. But within XRM Toolbox, you can add on this particular tool called the Fetch XML Builder, and that is the tool that would let you actually open a view, edit it, and export it, or edit it and import it back into CRM to give you a list of opportunities without quotes. So we don't have a lot of time to go through this, but as you can see, my PowerPoint presentation actually here shows you exactly how to go about exporting the XML, opening it with the Fetch XML Builder tool, modifying it, opening the view, modifying the correct value on the quote section of that query, updating it to use an outer join, showing your results, and then saving the view back to CRM. Now remember, you are actually adding XML outside of CRM, so this isn't for the novices. You should know a little bit about what you're doing. You're going to have the proper rights to do this, but it is a very powerful way of getting advanced finds and system and personal views that accommodate some of the needs you might not be able to build right within CRM. So based on that, I think that I'm going to turn this back over to Danielle for a moment, and then we're going to go ahead and take some of your questions.
Thanks, Jackie. Yep, I think that Adam's going to go ahead and ask a few of the questions that have come in. Just as a reminder, if you haven't had a chance to type your question, now's your chance. Adam, did you want to go ahead and cover those, or I'm happy to do so?
Sure. No, I can do that. We do have a couple that have come in. First question is, have you ever seen a situation where the entire setup of options in the advanced find menu are whited out? I have 2 users that this is happening to, but not all users. I have checked security roles, had them clear their IE cache, but no change.
I can't say that I've seen that situation. We also have Mike Hauk on the phone. Maybe he has some ideas. I am thinking that it does have something to do with a security role. Do those 2 users have the same security role? Are they the only users that have that security role? What happens if you temporarily give them system administrator security role? Do they get the options back? That's how some of the ways I would go about troubleshooting it, or give them a different security role and see what happens. Because it could actually be a corrupted security role.
The only thing I would add, Jackie, to what you said is I would hone in on the saved view record in core records in the security role in question that the user or users have, and make sure that they have the ability to write or create saved views that may impact this particular permissions, but I'd play with saved views if your choice is, as you said, the quick and easy thing to do is just change permissions and give them a role like sysadmin temporarily, just to confirm that fixes it, and that will tell us that it's a permissions issue and not something weird with the client or anything like that, and then we can hone in on the role in question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
Next question.
Okay, great. So next question, are personal views created through advanced find available to be subsequently used in a dashboard?
Absolutely. We do it all the time. You just have to be careful that if you want to share a dashboard with other users, you have to make sure that you also share all of the underlying views or charts, or when the user tries to render the dashboard, they'll get security errors basically that says they can't see that particular component.
Right. Next question, on email a link. My instance states I can only send a maximum of 10 rows. Is that a setup issue or something else?
I'm not sure I'm following the question.
So yeah.
It sounds like somehow it's trying to send data, and it shouldn't be. It should just be a URL to the particular view is typically what gets sent. I'd probably need to see the specifics or actually see a screenshot. We can certainly follow up after the fact, Adam.
Okay, great. Somebody asked if the PowerPoint presentation will be available. Yes, it will be. We'll post the recorded session online in the next day or so, and the slides will be available as well. have another question here that just came in. If you use fetch XML and import the changed view, would it get overwritten by a solution change? So does it need to be added to a solution?
Well, if you imported a solution that had a different fetch XML for that particular view, it could. But if you add it to the solution and push it forward, then it should the edited fetch XML would go with the solution. Am I correct, Mike?
And again, it would depend on whether that view is a system view or a personal view, right? The system view would potentially come in a solution if that same view exists in the solution and could get overwritten. So it should be added or modified in the solution via export, update the solution. If it's a personal views don't go in solutions. So it wouldn't get overwritten in that case.
Can a personal view be transformed into a system view?
No. Nope. With having said that, in 2015, you can add filters when you're in views and you can save them, but it's still you're editing a system view. You can't turn a personal view into a system view.
Yeah,
if
somebody really wanted to play with the fetch XML, you could essentially export your personal view, create a system view, and overwrite a lot of the attributes and cut down on a lot of the work, but you technically cannot transform a personal view to a system view or vice versa. Or I shouldn't say vice versa, because obviously I could take a system view and open it and click on Advanced Find, and essentially I have that system view, and now I can save it, change it the way that I want, but I can't take a personal view and make it a system view.
Right.
Another question here that just came in. How do you do a, quote, outer join in Advanced Find, i.e. records that don't have children?
I think Jackie kind of answered that. There's really... Yep, go ahead, Jack.
Go on, Mike. Oh, well, I was
just
saying that is exactly what I was talking about.
Yep. Yeah, at the end when Jackie talked about the marketing list and removing members as well as the fetch XML, those are the two kind of obvious, intuitive ways to duplicate outer join functionality.
Correct.
Great. All right, so we've got another question. If I have many views and want to make the same change, for example, adding a column or reformatting, how do I do that?
Well, actually, that tool that I showed you, that XRM toolbox, has an option in there to replicate changes across views. So if you did go into a system view and changed a column width or added a column, you can then use that view and target it out to additional views. So it makes that functionality or that task a lot faster. There wouldn't really be a way to do it with personal views. And I mean, other than, again, doing something like exporting the XML or something like that.
Actually, Jackie, I think that tool will work with personal views. I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly confident that it will work with personal views. Maybe.
Okay.
I'll test.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, so if people have any questions, once again, please feel free to type them into the Q&A box on the lower right-hand side of your screen. We'll be sure to get to them. We'll just give people a couple more minutes to collect their thoughts, see if any more questions come in.
Yeah, and Jackie just put up the slide that's got a little bit more information, contact information for us. If you need to reach out to us for anything, we've got lots of resources on our website, blog posts, as well as some great white papers and articles on CRM adoption. So just want to let you know that was there. I'm not seeing any others. I don't know if you are, Adam.
Yeah. No, I'm not. We'll give people just a few more seconds to see if any other questions come through. But yeah, if not, people can just follow up offline. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have any more. Nope, not a question. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so why don't we end? I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I'd like to thank you all for presenting as well. That was a great session. As I said earlier, we recorded this. It's going to be available online in the next couple of days. We'll be sure to email you a link to the session. Any other questions, just feel free to connect with Tribridge directly. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie.
Bye-bye.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.